Welcome back after 1 year. We are recombined again. I'm very happy that I should meet my old 1 year back students. Okay, so because at the same time, the last year we are discussing about the biomedical engineering. Okay, so after 1 year we are rejoining again. Thank you. So up to now, our Trinar sir will explain a brief introduction. I am very sorry, unable to communicate with you due to some problem. Okay, I am not aware in the college, so that's why I adjust my classes to our Trinar sir, right? So now I want to discuss about the a brief introduction. Today I want to discuss a brief introduction. So actually, our Trinar sir explained what is the wireless sensor network and what is the application and what are the challenges are there. So now I want to start about the single node architecture. So what is the node? So because a communicating device is called as a node. A communicating device is called as a node. So before explaining about this, so what is the sensor and what is the actuator? Okay, a sensor means sensing some physical quantity, sensing some physical quantity, and it will give the corresponding analog output. Okay, sensing some physical quantity like the temperature, humidity, or humidity or rainfall or whatever it may be. You are aware about the a lot of energy, a lot of knowledge about the sensor. It will sense the physical quantity, physical, okay, and it will produce the corresponding output in the form of analog, okay, but it requires the sensor require low power, sensor require low power and low frequency bandwidth, low frequency, only order of kilohertz, okay, right. But actuators, actuators means, suppose if you are applying the uh, reverse strategy, that it can do some action, it can do some action. So that's why, so with the help of the some input, then it will provide some mechanical action. Okay, so that is the actuators. So sensor and actuators working quite properly and oppositely. Okay, all right. Suppose if you are giving analog signal, then it will do something. But in the sensor point of view, if you provide, it will sense some physical quantity and it provide some analog output. So this is a low power. This is a very low power and low bandwidth, right? So at present, IoT completely depends upon the sensor network and it is a wireless network, right? Uh, so what are the components available in a single node? So that means a node to node should be communicated. A node to node should be communicated. So before going to explain about the node to node communication, first what is the architecture of the single node? What are the main components of the RT? So you already know that. You already know that. So first, it's a node. A node must and should contain one sensor, one actuators. So either one or combination, either one or combination. So this sensor can use some output in terms of analog. Okay, these can be, these output can be processed. For the processing, we require some processor, either microprocessor or microcontroller or DSP or FPGA or ASIC, whatever it may be, that it should receive a signal from the sensor and that can be processing. That can be processing. Okay. So after processing, to process that for the controller or the processor, we require some memory, internal memory of the controller and external memory of the controller. So first one, sensor, second one, processor, third one, memory. And next one, because sensing the information should be communicated to other devices or other nodes. So that's why communicating device is also important. Communicating device is also important, whether it is analog or digital or whatever it may be. For the communication, we should require some communication equipment is required. And one and only the important point is the power supply. Power supply. So I repeat, first thing, what are the minimum requirement for the any node? The simple one, just a minute. Yeah. So this is the hardware components of the node. Hardware components of the node. So just now I explained about the first one is the sensor. So this is the main heart of the node because our topic is the wireless sensor network. So sensor or actuators are important. So this can provide, sensor can supply the voltage or analog signal to the controller. Actuators receive the signal from the controller and it can perform some action. So that's why this is the main heart of our node. To receive analog signal, it can be processed. It can be processed. So controller or processor or PSP or FPGA, whatever it may be. So some memory can be required. And next one, this is the communication device. So, and next one, this is the power supply. So what are the five components of the node? Sensors by actuators, processor or controller, memory, and next one, communicating device, and next one, power supply. So this is a brief introduction about the node. Next, you already know that, you already studied that. So controller, okay. So controller, with the help of the instruction, with the help of the program, with the help of the IO devices communication, it can process the data. It can process the data. How and what is what, you already know that. So just you can understand that it can process some operation. Okay, next, memory. So sometimes you can store the data, sometimes because its a function is fixed, then you should be use a prompt. Okay, because any control or any processor having the less memory inside that, less memory. So, but this memory cannot be sufficient. So that's why that is compatible from the external memory devices. So that's why we should use the memory. Okay. And next one, sensors and actuators, already explained now. Next, communication. So why the communication device? To communicate with the node, we require the communication devices. Okay. All right. Next, first two, this is the components. So now, first one is the power supply. So actually, sensors always work on the low power. So once a node is connecting all the devices, then we should manage the power because four different types of devices are there to manage the power. So sensors require low power, communication device require high power, some than the sensor. So that's why how to manage the power. So this power can be available either by battery or either by solar energy or both or combined. But one strong advice while you are using the node is that, so what is the purpose? Once a sensor sensing after the processor can start. Once a processor can start, then it should be communicated. So you do not, in the on position, you do not keep the on position of the controller and communicating device. So that's why these should be comes into the picture only after sensing the data, sensing the physical quantity. So if you are managed like that, then power should be very consumable. So that means you should save the power. Otherwise, because as power increases, then heating process, damaging process, everything should be takes place. So that's why while you are using the node, you should be in the sleep mode for up to or once a sensing is selecting or sensing, then it should be sending an interrupt. Sensing an interrupt. Once a interrupt is activated the controller, then it should be processed. Once it is a process, then it should use the it is connected to communicating devices. By this way, you do not keep on mode until the sensing is activated. Okay, this is the first power control. Okay, first one, if you are creating the node, okay, you are creating a well-established and more activated, more resolution node. But marketing is also important because at the outside the market, they are requiring the more facility with the less amount. Okay, least cost. So this is the strategy of the market. So that's why there is a trade-off because as the power supply or power sources increases, then size increases. So, but the node is always in the less sizing very less, size less, more profitable, and least cost and more functionality. So this is the main function of the node. So you should make a trade-off. Okay, this is the trade-off. So you should be very aware. Clear? So that's why power is a very important. And next, sensors. So you already, because you are a final year, you are performing so many workshops, so many experiments on the sensors. Okay, so that sensor can be selected according to your application. So there are so many sensors are available in the market. So according to your requirement, you should select a particular sensor. Okay, right. Next to the component of the node is the controller. Already explained controller purpose. So why I am preferring the controller instead of processor? So actually, the processor is a general purpose. Processor is a general purpose, but controller may be used for the general purpose or can be used for the specific purpose. Specific purpose. Okay, right. Actually, processor or controller can working in the RAM. RAM basically. What are the program is there? That program is already written in the RAM. But problem is that it is a volatile. So what is the volatile? Once the power is lost, entire your program is lost. So that's why the memory should having the memory should contain writing the program and that program is a specific purpose, then it should be reserved permanently. So that's why you should maintain the two memories. One is the RAM for the program purpose, and second one is the storing purpose. So that's why you should be communicating between these two. Okay. Actually, processor having a 16-bit 16-bit processor. ARM processor is a 32-bit processor. Microcontroller is an 8-bit processor. Okay. So the controller can process the data. Okay. For wireless sensor network, you should use the microcontroller. Why? Because because processor is a 16-bit processor and memory is a 16-bit, that means it requires more memory. And next one, the ASIC is a high end and it requires more power because already says that power is less, low power. So for assuming all these considerations, the controller is the best for especially uh, wireless sensor network, especially for wireless sensor network. Controller is the best because low bit rate, low memory, okay, and it can be communicated to multiple devices. So it is a very flexible for the node-to-node communication. So that's why controller is the best. So what are the different types of controllers are available? Number one, you already know that up to your class, 8051 microcontroller is there, and the next one ARM processor is there, next one DSP processor is there, ASIC, okay, and next one FPGA. So DSP cannot be preferable because it can be used for the that's what I'm saying is the broadband communication. Broadband communication. So that's why it is not preferable. ASIC and FPGA, it consumes more power. Okay, and the microprocessor is a 32-bit processor and also 16-bit processor. So that's why it's a because uh, sensor can send only a low power and low frequency data. So that's why it requires only less number of bits. So for a wireless network, you can use the controller is preferable. So what are the different types of controllers are there? So see this, this is called as a Texas Instrument MSP430. Already you are using the Atmel, okay, Atmega. So Atmega. So it's a 8-bit processor. So that's why because sensor is a very less quantity, it can provide a less amount of analog output. And if you are converting this, then it will require only less amount of data bit rate. So preferable for wireless sensor network is controller instead of processor. Okay, next. Okay, all right. So these are all the main components of the. Uh, just a minute. I want to escape this. Just a minute. Okay. So up to now, I am discussing about in the memory. So memory requires the two memories. One for processing because in any computer or any microcontroller, first your program is loaded into the RAM only. So if you are depend only the RAM only, then what happens? It is a volatile. That means power is lost, your information should be lost. So that is the main problem. So that's why for a fixed purpose, you always load the data from the EPROM or flash memory because these can be non-volatile. So non-volatile stands for when power is lost, information should not be lost. That is your information or your program is preserved. So that's why for any memory purpose, we should use the less amount of the memory. So within this, some part is RAM and some part is almost for any wireless sensor network, or you can use the 128 KB 128 KB. So not in the MB, not in the GB. So it is only one in the KBs. It requires only the KBs. Okay. All right. So next is the communicating devices. So what is the purpose of the communicating devices? For the communication with the other nodes. So there are different methods of communication. One is the wired communication and the next one is the wireless communication. So maximum our subject name is the wireless communication. So for the wireless communication, what is the frequency band you can prefer? So you can prefer the frequency band about RF, radio frequency. Okay, radio frequency is preferred for the communicating devices or for the communication. Okay, so what are the characteristics for the communicating devices, and what are the characteristics, and what is the importance of the frequency, and remaining should be explained in the next class. So this is just an introduction class. This is just an introduction class. Okay, so from the next class onwards, we can go in detail. Okay, right? So now I want to stop this. Okay, thank you. All right. Before going to that, please wait for 1 second. Before going to that, I want to explain the textbooks. See this. This is your prescribed textbook. So your prescribed textbook is, this is the protocols and architectures for wireless sensor and networks. Okay, so remaining should be discussed in the next class. Okay, now I am preferring this for this topic. Thank you.